Right. Ready to dive deep into a pretty fascinating world.
Always. What we got today?
We're going into the world of the 13-striped ground squirrel.
Oh, cool.
You might be thinking, a squirrel. What's so special about that?
Yeah, I mean, they're cute, but
Yeah.
what's the big deal?
But these little guys, these squirrels, are masters of survival,
Oh, yeah.
able to thrive in conditions that would send us running for the nearest heat source.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking sub-zero temperatures, scarce food, constant threat of predators.
Yeah.
And yet they manage to not only endure, but actually thrive.
It's incredible.
I've got a fascinating research paper here from 1956.
Okay.
And it's part of a collection called Anna's Archive. And it digs into the chemical changes these squirrels undergo during hibernation.
That sounds like a great read.
Yeah, and the paper focuses on the shifts in carbohydrate and phosphate compounds,
Okay.
revealing how these squirrels manage to maintain their energy balance when everything seems to be working in slow motion. Speaking of slow motion, get this. Their heart rate can drop to just a mere handful of beats per minute.
Seriously.
Their body temperature practically matches their frosty surroundings,
Wow.
and they barely even breathe.
It's like they're hitting the pause button on life.
It really is. It's incredible.
It's remarkable, isn't it? We're essentially looking at a masterclass in metabolic slowdown.
Yeah.
A strategy honed over millennia to conserve energy when resources are scarce.
Right.
The question is, how do they pull it off?
Yeah.
This study provides some crucial clues by examining the physiological changes happening inside these squirrels' bodies during hibernation.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Sure.
The researchers measured key indicators like body temperature, heart rate, respiration rate, and body weight.
Right.
What do they find?
The results were dramatic.
Okay.
Their body temperature plummeted, almost mirroring the environment.
Wow.
To put that into perspective, imagine your own body temperature dropping to near freezing.
I can't even imagine.
Their heart rate slowed to a crawl, and their breathing became incredibly shallow.
Oh, wow.
It's like their entire system is operating on minimal power.
That's mind-blowing. I mean, a heart rate that low, how can their blood even circulate properly?
Yeah.
And barely breathing, how do they get enough oxygen to survive?
That's the beauty of hibernation. These changes point to a drastically reduced metabolic rate.
Okay.
It's like their bodies are switching to power-saving mode.
Mm-hmm.
When your metabolism slows down, your cells require less oxygen and fuel to function.
Great.
That's how they can survive for months on those limited energy reserves they've stored up before winter.
It's all about efficiency.
Exactly.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This study found some puzzling results regarding glycogen levels.
So?
And as I understand it, glycogen is like the body's readily available energy stash, right?
Precisely. Glycogen is a stored form of glucose,
Okay.
ready to be broken down and used for energy whenever needed.
Right. It's like having a pantry full of snacks for your cells.
Exactly. A perfect analogy.
But here's the thing. Some of the hibernating squirrels showed a significant depletion of glycogen,
Interesting.
while others maintained levels similar to non-hibernating squirrels. Why the discrepancy? What's going on there?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
The researchers discovered a fascinating link.
Okay.
Squirrels with higher glycogen levels also had slightly elevated respiration rates, even during hibernation.
So even a tiny increase in breathing could make a big difference in their energy stores.
It seems that way.
Okay.
This suggests that they can fine-tune their energy production
Right.
depending on how much oxygen they're taking in.
Interesting.
If they can get just a bit more oxygen, they might rely more on aerobic metabolism.
Okay.
That's the process of breaking down fuel using oxygen.
Right.
This allows them to conserve those precious glycogen stores for when they really need them.
So it's like they have multiple ways to power their bodies,
Yes,
and they can switch between them depending on the situation.
precisely.
It's incredible how adaptable they are.
Absolutely. This flexibility is crucial for surviving the harsh winter months.
Right.
But let's delve deeper into how this energy production works at a chemical level.
Okay.
The study also looked at lactate levels,
Okay.
a byproduct of anaerobic metabolism,
Yeah.
the type of energy production that kicks in when oxygen is limited.
Ah, lactate. Now, I remember that from high school biology.
Oh, yeah.
It's connected to muscle fatigue, right?
Exactly.
Like when you've pushed yourself too hard during a workout.
Yeah, when you exercise intensely, your muscles need more energy than your body can deliver through aerobic means.
Right.
So they switch to anaerobic respiration, which produces lactate as a byproduct,
Yeah.
that burning sensation in your muscles.
Yeah.
That's partly due to lactate buildup.
Okay, so back to the squirrels.
Right.
The study found significantly reduced lactate levels in both their heart and skeletal muscles during hibernation.
Interesting.
Does this mean that their muscles are super relaxed, like they're on a permanent vacation?
Well, not quite. Remember, everything is slowed down during hibernation.
Right.
What we're seeing here is a reflection of that overall metabolic slowdown. Those reduced lactate levels likely indicate a much slower rate of glycogen breakdown.
Okay.
Regardless of whether those glycogen levels are depleted or not,
Why?
it's further evidence of their remarkable ability to conserve energy.
It all ties back to that incredible efficiency, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's like they figured out how to run their bodies on the bare minimum, just enough to keep things ticking over until spring arrives.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But there's still one more piece of this puzzle to explore,
Okay, what's that?
and that's the role of high-energy phosphates.
Okay.
These compounds, like adenosine triphosphate or ATP
Yeah,
and phosphocreatine, are crucial for energy transfer within cells.
right.
Because ATP is like the cellular energy currency, right?
Yes, exactly.
It fuels all those essential processes happening inside our cells.
Uh-huh.
But what about this phosphocreatine? What role does it play?
Think of phosphocreatine as the backup generator.
Okay.
When ATP levels start to dip,
Yeah.
phosphocreatine can quickly replenish them,
Right.
ensuring a constant supply of energy for those critical cellular functions.
So it's like having an emergency reserve of energy ready to kick in when the primary power source starts to run low.
Exactly. A perfect analogy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What did the researchers find happening to these phosphate compounds during hibernation?
Oh, this is where things get really intriguing.
Well-
They found that ATP levels were significantly decreased in the hibernating squirrels.
Hmm?
Now, that might seem counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but here's the twist.
Okay.
They also observed a significant increase in phosphocreatine.
So they're lowering their primary energy currency and boosting their backup supply.
Exactly.
That's a fascinating strategy, but why would they do that? What's the advantage?
That's a great question, and it's one that scientists are still trying to fully understand.
Okay.
One prevailing hypothesis is that this shift is all about maximizing energy conservation.
Could you elaborate on that? How does lowering ATP and increasing phosphocreatine help conserve energy?
Imagine it like this.
Like it-
ATP is like your everyday spending money.
All right.
You use it constantly for all sorts of transactions.
Right.
Phosphocreatine, on the other hand, is more like your savings account.
Okay.
It's there for those unexpected expenses or emergencies.
So by reducing their ATP spending and building up your phosphocreatine savings, these squirrels are essentially stretching their energy resources as far as possible.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a remarkable adaptation for surviving on those limited winter reserves. But there's another intriguing possibility to consider:
What's that?
the role of phosphocreatine in arousal from hibernation.
Now that's an interesting thought. Waking up from hibernation has got to be a pretty energy-intensive process.
It is.
Could that be where this phosphocreatine reserve comes in handy?
It certainly seems plausible.
Oh.
Arousal requires a rapid surge of energy to jumpstart all those slowed down bodily functions. And phosphocreatine, with its ability to quickly replenish ATP,
Yeah.
could be the key to powering that transition back to an active state.
So it's not just about conserving energy during hibernation, but also having that readily available power source for when they need to wake up quickly.
Precisely.
That makes a lot of sense.
But this raises an important question that we'll delve into further.
All right, hold that thought.
Right.
I'm already hooked.
Great.
We'll pick up right there when we continue our deep dive into the amazing world of the 13-striped ground squirrel. Stick with us.
Sounds good. So this phosphocreatine, right, it might be like their biological jumpstart system.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
So what happens if those phosphocreatine reserves are depleted before hibernation is over? Like, let's say there's a sudden thaw or a predator stumbles upon their burrow. Could they even wake up fast enough to react?
That's the question. Imagine being stuck in slow motion when you need to escape danger. let's say.
Yeah.
While this specific research doesn't give us a definitive answer,
Okay.
it does raise this intriguing possibility for further investigation. Perhaps there's like a delicate balance. They need to conserve enough energy to last the winter,
Right.
but they also got to maintain enough phosphocreatine to fuel that quick escape if necessary.
I never thought about hibernation being, like, potentially dangerous.
Right.
I always pictured it as this super safe, cozy state.
Yeah.
This research is making me rethink everything.
Well, it's a good reminder that even the most seemingly passive states in nature, right?
Yeah.
They involve a constant interplay between risk and adaptation.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what other factors might impact a squirrel's ability to survive hibernation.
Right.
I mean, this study focused on specific chemical changes,
Yeah,
but those changes are happening within a complex ecosystem.
precisely. The success of these squirrels isn't solely determined by their internal physiology.
Right.
External factors play a crucial role as well.
Like what?
Things like food availability leading up to hibernation,
Okay.
the severity of the winter,
Okay.
even the presence of other animals.
Yep.
All of these can influence a squirrel's chances of making it through to spring.
So it's not just about what's happening inside their bodies, but also how those internal changes interact with the world around them.
It's this constant dance between physiology and environment.
That makes sense.
Even small variations in one can have significant consequences for the other.
Wow.
That's what makes studying hibernation so fascinating. It gives us a glimpse into how animals adapt to these extremes, and it can teach us a lot about resilience and survival in the face of challenges.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of everything, doesn't it?
It does. And speaking of interconnectedness, it's worth noting that this research was conducted back in 1956.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a while ago.
And the scientific tools and techniques available then were quite different from what we have today.
That's true. They were measuring these tiny chemical changes
Yeah.
using methods that, we might consider pretty rudimentary now.
Absolutely.
It makes their findings even more impressive.
I think so, yeah. They relied on techniques like spectrophotometry and chromatography. Imagine painstakingly preparing tissue samples and running them through these elaborate chemical assays.
Yeah.
It required incredible patience and precision.
I can only imagine. So if we were to repeat this study today with all our fancy modern equipment,
Yeah.
do you think the results would be significantly different? Or would the fundamental findings hold up?
That's a great question. I believe the core findings would likely remain consistent.
Okay.
However, newer technologies could provide us with an even deeper understanding of these metabolic shifts.
Like what?
Well, we might be able to track those changes in real time,
Okay.
observe variations at the cellular level, or even identify specific genes and proteins involved in the hibernation process.
Wow.
The possibilities are really exciting.
It makes you wonder what other mysteries are hidden within these creatures, just waiting to be uncovered. But for now, let's bring it back to the research we've been discussing.
Yeah.
You've shared some amazing insights, and I want to make sure I've captured the key takeaways.
Sure.
Can we do a quick recap before we wrap up?
Of course. We've learned that the 13-striped ground squirrel is a master of metabolic slowdown,
Right.
dramatically reducing its heart rate, respiration, and body temperature to survive the winter.
Okay.
They have this incredible ability to fine-tune their energy production pathways, right?
Yeah.
Shifting between aerobic and anaerobic metabolism depending on oxygen availability.
Okay.
And perhaps most intriguing of all, there's this potential link between increased phosphocreatine levels and their ability to quickly rouse from hibernation,
Right.
like a built-in jumpstart system.
Yeah, that's a fantastic summary.
Thanks.
And I think it really highlights the power of evolution to shape these incredible adaptations,
Absolutely.
even down to the tiniest details of their biology.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate the interconnectedness of all living things
Yeah.
and the remarkable strategies that life has evolved to thrive in even the most challenging environments.
Well said. But before we go, I have to ask what stands out to you as the most surprising or thought-provoking finding from this research?
For me, it's the puzzle of the varying glycogen levels.
Yeah.
Some squirrels deplete those stores while others maintain them, right?
Right.
And this difference appears to be linked to subtle variations in their breathing rate.
It's fascinating, yeah.
It suggests a level of metabolic flexibility that we're only beginning to understand.
Yeah.
And it just opens up so many new questions.
Like what?
Well, why do some squirrels breathe more deeply than others?
Right.
What are the genetic and environmental factors at play? And how does this flexibility ultimately contribute to their survival?
Yeah.
These are the kinds of questions that keep scientists like me up at night.
I can definitely see why.
Oh.
And it makes me wonder if these seemingly small variations in breathing can have such a big impact on glycogen levels, what other subtle differences might be playing a crucial role in hibernation's success? It's like we've peeled back one layer of the onion only to discover a whole new level of complexity.
That's the beauty of science.
Yeah?
Every discovery leads to more questions, pushing us to delve deeper and broaden our understanding. Who knows what other amazing secrets these ground squirrels are holding on to?
Or on that note, I think we've given our listeners plenty to ponder.
Or maybe hibernate on is a better phrase.
Yeah, good one.
It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating research with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of ground squirrel hibernation. Stay tuned for more fascinating explorations in our next episode. Until then, stay curious.
It's amazing, right? How these tiny variations can have such a big impact.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
Like those squirrels, breathing just a little bit more deeply, and then boom, they've got all these extra energy reserves.
Exactly. It's like a tiny tweak with massive consequences.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder if there are other subtle differences that we just haven't noticed yet.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Things that could be playing a crucial role in hibernation success.
Absolutely. There's always more to discover.
It highlights just how complex and interconnected everything is, right?
It really does. Like we started with this one research paper focused on these specific chemical changes.
Right.
But it's led us to this much broader understanding of how these squirrels survive.
It's all connected.
Exactly. It's not just about what's happening inside their bodies.
Right.
It's about the food they eat, the weather, the other animals around them.
Their whole environment.
Everything.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize that these seemingly insignificant creatures,
Yeah.
they can teach us so much about the bigger picture.
Absolutely. They're like little windows into the resilience of life.
I like that.
And how everything is interconnected.
It's pretty inspiring, actually.
It is. These squirrels have mastered the art of slowing down,
Yeah.
conserving energy, adapting to challenging circumstances.
Right. Qualities that we could all use a little more of these days.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot we can learn from them.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise. And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of the natural world.